Today, we're going to talk about something you see every single day. Something you probably used this morning without even thinking about it. Yep, I'm talking about the Humble brush. And trust me, it has one of the most amazing, surprising histories of any tool out there.
But before we get into all that, let's just start with a quick question. Just take a second and picture your house. How many different kinds of brushes can you think of right now that you own? Go ahead, do a quick mental count.
I mean, you've got your toothbrush, for sure, a hairbrush, maybe some makeup brushes. Then there's the kitchen. You might have a pastry brush or a little scrubber for vegetables. And what about the garage? Paintbrushes, right? They are literally everywhere, just totally woven into the fabric of our lives.
And that's really the whole point. This thing we see is so ordinary, it's actually an ancient piece of technology. And behind its simple design is this incredible story, a story of art and innovation and industry that's been shaping who we are for thousands and thousands of years.
Okay, so let's dive in by rewinding the clock, and I mean way, way back. We're not talking a few hundred years ago, we're talking tens of thousands.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows you just how universal the idea of a brush really is. You've got Stone Age humans in Spain using feathers and animal hair to paint on cave walls. Then thousands of years later, but on totally different parts of the globe, you have Egyptians using frayed papyrus for their tomb paintings, and early Chinese dynasties creating these amazing, sophisticated brushes for calligraphy. It's a tool that popped up independently all over the world to meet this basic human need to just make a mark.
All right, let's jump forward now to an era where the brush wasn't just for making marks, but for creating absolute masterpieces, the Renaissance. This quote here, it just nails it. A Renaissance art studio really did look more like a science lab. See, you couldn't just pop down to the art store. Artists back then, they were like alchemists and engineers. They had to grind their own pigments from rocks, prepare their own wooden panels, and most importantly for our story, they had to build every single one of their own brushes from scratch. And get this. Look at the specialization. For the tiniest, most delicate details, like painting an eyelash, they would use the super soft hair from ermine tails. But for slapping on thick paint over a huge area, they needed something tough, so they used stiff hog bristles. Every brush was a custom-made tool for a very specific job. But here is a mind-blowing fact. For centuries, all those great masters faced a huge limitation. Look at how they made their brushes, by stuffing bristles into hollowed-out bird quills. And what shape is a quill? It's round. So that meant artists could only make round brushes. Think about that for a second. The flat brush, something we see everywhere today, was completely impossible back then. And that one little technological problem shaped the entire look and feel of painting for hundreds of years. It meant artists were great at fine lines and stippling, but broad, flat strokes of color? So much harder to do.
Okay, so that brings us to a huge turning point. The 18th and 19th centuries. This is when the brush goes from being a handmade object to a product of the new industrial age.
And you know where the story of mass production starts? In the most unlikely place you can imagine? A prison cell. Around 1780, there was an inmate named William Addis, and he was watching other prisoners clean their teeth with, like, a dirty rag dipped in soot. He just thought, there has to be a better way. So, as you can see here, he saved a little bone from his dinner, drilled tiny holes in it, somehow got some bristles from a guard, and then painstakingly tied and glued them in. This little invention, born out of pure necessity, became the prototype for the very first mass-produced toothbrush. Wild, right?
But the real game changer, the thing that finally solved that round brush problem, was the metal ferrule. You know, that little metal band that holds the bristles? For the first time ever, you could clamp bristles into any shape you wanted, flat, angled, whatever. This tiny piece of metal completely changed the game for both art and manufacturing.
And over in America, you had entrepreneurs like this guy, John L. Whiting, who saw a huge opportunity. He basically took these new innovations and built an entire industry around them, becoming one of the most important early brush makers in the country.
Starting in the 1850s, Whiting pretty much invented the modern brush factory. You can see he brought in machinery to automate everything, which saved a ton of labor and made the quality way, way better. His factory was so good, in fact, that for the first time, American-made brushes started to become more popular than the European ones that had always dominated the market.
And that same spirit of innovation brings us all the way to today. So what does the science of the brush look like in the modern world?
Yep, we are a long way from bones and quills. Today's high-performance brushes are engineered with incredible precision using computer-controlled CNC machines.
And for things like medical tools or brushes used in the food industry, the bristles are set in epoxy. That seals up any tiny gaps where bacteria could hide, making them super hygienic and incredibly durable.
And we've moved way beyond animal hair. Now, it is all about synthetic filaments, each one engineered for a specific job. You know that tough scrub brush you use for cleaning? That's probably made of nylon, because it's super resistant to wear and tear. A brush that needs to stay stiff even when it's soaked, like for washing your car, that's likely polyester. And brushes for food prep? They need to be totally resistant to chemicals and oils, and that's where polypropylene comes in. It's literally material science in the palm of your hand.
And with all these modern materials, one of the most critical factors is this thing called bend recovery. It's basically just a fancy way of saying how well the bristles snap back into shape after you use them. You know, think about a cheap old toothbrush where the bristles are all splayed out versus a brand new one. That difference in springiness, that's bend recovery. And it's what makes a good brush good.
Okay, let's take a breath and step back for a second. Let's just think about the incredible journey this one simple tool has taken.
Over 18,000 years, from the very first strokes of paint on a dark cave wall to the high-tech, precision-made tools we have today, the brush has been right there with us, a constant companion on our journey of progress.
So the next time you pick up a brush, any brush, just remember that it's not just a tool. It's like a tiny museum. You're holding the story of our earliest art, the incredible ingenuity of Renaissance masters, and the power of the Industrial Revolution, all right there.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing histories are hiding in plain sight in all the other simple, everyday objects that are all around us?